Please, may I have the leftovers for my child? The words cut through the sterile atmosphere of the Galactic Council's executive dining hall like a plasma blade. Ambassador Elena Vasquez stood in the doorway, her human diplomatic attire torn and dusty, clutching a small bundle against her chest. The assembled delegates, Zephyrian nobles with their crystalline skin, hulking Krex warriors, and the ethereal Mindari, all turned to stare at the interruption. Chancellor Vexhai of the Dominion Coalition raised one of his forearms dismissively. Security, remove this creature from our presence immediately. But Elena didn't move. Her dark eyes swept across the table laden with exotic delicacies from a dozen worlds, foods that could feed her starving colony for months. In her arms, her infant daughter whimpered softly, too weak from malnutrition to cry properly. 3 days, Elena said, her voice steady despite her trembling hands. My people have had nothing for 3 days while you feast on delicacies that cost more than our entire world's GDP. The Mindari representative, Thoughtweaver Synthis, projected waves of disdain through the neural network. The human colonies chose to defy the coalition's mining quotas. Consequences were clearly outlined in the subjugation accords. We chose to keep our children from working in toxic mines, Elena countered. We chose to preserve some shred of dignity. Chancellor Vexhai's mandibles clicked in amusement. Dignity? You speak of dignity while begging for table scraps like some primitive scavenger? Elena's grip tightened on her daughter, but her voice remained calm. If feeding my child makes me a scavenger, then yes, I'll beg, I'll crawl, I'll abandon every shred of pride I have left, because that's what humans do. We endure. We sacrifice. We survive. The Krex war captain, Gorthak, rumbled from across the table. Pathetic. Your species lacks the strength to enforce your will, yet you persist in defying those who could crush you with a thought. You're right, Elena said, surprising everyone. We can't match your fleets, we can't compete with your technology, but you fundamentally misunderstand what makes us dangerous. She stepped forward, and several delegates instinctively recoiled. You see desperation and think it makes us weak. But human desperation isn't weakness. It's the most terrifying force in the universe. When we have nothing left to lose, when our children are starving, when our backs are against the wall, that's when we become something you'll never understand. The baby in her arms stirred, and Elena's voice softened as she looked down at her daughter. This little girl will grow up knowing that her mother stood in this room full of beings who could destroy worlds, and begged for scraps to keep her alive. She'll know that love made me stronger than pride, that protecting her mattered more than my dignity. She raised her eyes back to the assembled council, and when she's grown, when she's leading the next generation of humans, she'll remember this moment. She'll remember that you had the power to show mercy and chose cruelty instead. She'll remember that you could have built bridges and chose to build walls. Thoughtweaver Synthis projected confusion across the neural link. You speak as if this child's future memories could somehow threaten the coalition. Elena smiled, not with humor, but with something far more dangerous. Oh, Synthis. You really don't understand humans at all, do you? Every human child who grows up hungry, every parent who has to beg for their baby's life, every family torn apart by your subjugation accords, they all become part of our story. And humans? We never forget our stories. Chancellor Vexhai leaned forward, his compound, eyes glittering. Are you threatening the coalition, human? I'm explaining it to you, Elena replied. Right now there are maybe 50 billion humans scattered across your territories. We seem insignificant, manageable, but we're not just individuals. We're part of something larger. Every act of cruelty you perpetrate, every child you let starve, every parent you force to beg, it all goes into the collective human memory. She paused, letting her words sink in, and one day, maybe not today, maybe not in my daughter's lifetime, but someday, that memory will reach critical mass. And when it does, you'll discover what makes humans truly special. It's not our technology or our strength. It's our ability to turn pain into purpose, suffering into strength, desperation into determination. The room fell silent except for the soft whimper of Elena's daughter. "So please," Elena said, her voice dropping to barely above a whisper, "may I have the leftovers for my child?" For a long moment, no one moved. Then, slowly, War Captain Gorthak reached across the table and began gathering plates of food. The massive Krex warrior's scarred hands moved with surprising gentleness as he prepared a bundle of provisions. "The human speaks wisdom," he rumbled, his deep voice carrying across the chamber. "In my youth I conquered 17 worlds. On each one I faced desperate parents protecting their young. I learned too late that killing such beings doesn't end them. It creates legends. And legends." He handed the bundle to Elena. "Legends are far more dangerous than armies." Chancellor Vexahai's mandibles clicked in displeasure. "War Captain, you exceed your authority." "No," Gorthak replied, not taking his eyes off Elena and her child. "I exercise wisdom earned through bitter experience. This human and her offspring will remember kindness shown here today. Better that than the alternative." Elena accepted the bundle with shaking hands. "Thank you," she whispered. As she turned to leave, Thoughtweaver Synthis projected a final question across the neural network. "Human Elena, what guarantee do we have that your people's memory will include our mercy alongside your suffering?" Elena paused at the threshold, looking back at the assembled delegates. "Humans remember everything, Synthis. The cruelty and the kindness, the oppression and the mercy. What we choose to do with those memories, that's up to you." She walked out, carrying her daughter and the food that would keep them alive another day. Behind her, the council chamber remained silent, each delegate grappling with the uncomfortable realization that they had just encountered something they had never faced before. A human parent's love transformed into quiet, unshakable resolve. In the days that followed, food shipments began arriving at human colonies throughout Coalition space. Official records listed them as surplus disposal operations, but everyone knew the truth. The Galactic Council had glimpsed the future in a mother's desperate eyes, and for the first time in their expansionist history, they had chosen to plant seeds of gratitude rather than harvest crops of resentment. Elena's daughter would indeed grow up remembering that day, but she would remember both the hunger and the kindness, the desperation and the mercy. And that memory, carried forward into humanity's future, would prove to be the most powerful weapon of all: hope.